Good evening, welcome to SHOWstudio. Today it's the day of Bottega Veneta in Milan. Bottega Veneta had a new start with the first fashion show by their newly appointed designer Brandelli, who introduced his resort collection a few months ago. So he gave us a hint of what was going to happen, and he introduced his first advertising campaign. Recently we're going to discuss all of this because we, could imagine more or less what he was going to do. Anyway, so Bottega Veneta panel with a beautiful panel of experts that I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Jessica Bumpus and I'm a freelance fashion journalist.
Hi, I'm Dray. I'm a lecturer at London College of Fashion.
Hi, I'm Britt Lloyd and I'm a photographer.
I'm Carlo, Brandelli, ex-designer, now doing more artistic projects.
Great, fantastic panel. Thanks for being here. So, beautiful day in Milan. Bottega Veneta built a construction greenhouse in the middle of the center of Milan, in front of l'Arco della Pace, in Piazza Castello, Piazza Sempione, and presented a quite interesting collection. I think there is a lot to say here. The first thing that I saw while I was watching we have a film, right? We have video, so maybe we can show that while we speak. The first thing I noticed is that, rightly enough, to me, Daniel reworked the famous intrecciato. So the intrecciato has always been the logo of Bottega Veneta, the signature of Bottega Veneta, when your initials are enough, but then you could spot it from far, and he blew it out in exaggerated shapes and sizes to probably tell us, I want to use the codes of the brand, but I need to modernize, I need to change. So I could go on and on and on, but I don't want to take over you, so I don't know if you watch it, and I don't know if you want to say something.
To be a bit of a Debbie Downer, I didn't like it.
Okay.
I think it's probably not what well, obviously I'd seen the pre-fall and it's sort of continuation of that, but I just felt that, in my mind, Bottega is a sort of discreet, a very luxurious brand, and I'm not sure that some of his modern interpretations kind of lived up to that. I appreciate, obviously, that the landscape is changing and they're wanting to kind of inject a sort of a newness into it, but for me, it's not quite there. It feels a little bit too similar to some of the other things that maybe were a trend like last year. And I know it's quite sort of wrapped up.
Wow, that's a strong statement.
Yes, it is.
Well, I think because it's heavily wrapped up in, he came from Celine and everyone's mourning Celine, and so it's
everyone
quite
was expecting Phoebe.
Yeah. So, but see, I'm a real fan of Hedi at Celine, so that, that's from where I'm coming. So I don't know, there's quite a lot of layers, I think, that can obviously be explored in this, depending on whether you wanted a sort of Celine 2.0 or whether you wanted something new and edgy from Bottega. There's lots of, but I didn't love it, I guess is my thing.
I have a lot to say to you, but I want to hear the others first.
Well, I think, he's been, set 8 years, I think, since he graduated from Central St. Martin's.
Yeah, he's young.
And he's very young, and he did his collection, which was called Wardrobe for Warriors of the Wasteland, which was the title of it. And I think there's it's like making a nod to that too, that sort of warrior aesthetic. It's kind of the brave new world almost too. There is a sort of, it's quite sort of punchy and very, it's almost futuristic in the way that some of it's been designed architecturally as well, with the detail. I mean, I think, I'm a traditionalist, but I would wear a lot of that, I think that there is something so sort of, those boots, they're so brutal, but they're so kind of feminine at the same time. I mean, it's I think it was always going to be a kind of difficult, in a way, inaugural collection, because he had so much to live up to. But he makes a lot of pressure.
Also,
but it is making a nod to the past and reflecting on what Thomas did. So I think that it's moving forward, but still retaining that craftsmanship, which in the luxury brand, which is of course what
It's also a brand that has been, in the past 10 years, has been very successful, growing incredibly. It was like the hit brand of caring, and then in the past 2-3 years it's been decreasing. It had negative growth. It doesn't mean going bankrupt, but negative growth. It's still a 1 billion brand. They just announced the results of last full year. It was minus 6%, so it's not that bad, but still, you know, they were used to grow. So this guy had a lot of pressure on his head, you know, because he, first of all, first time he's a creative director for such a big brand, such an important brand. And second, everybody wanted him to do Phoebe Philo, which I think is very unfair, because he's not Phoebe Philo. He comes from that school. She was his mentor, but it's very unfair. So just a little parenthesis about the pressure he had. Britt, what do you think?
Well, I guess previously, I wasn't a huge Bottega fan. Not that I wasn't a fan of it and I don't respect what they do, but I guess it just never really reached out to me. And I guess a lot of their advertising and branding was very much focused on their leather goods, which for me, even as a customer, wasn't really in my price range, in my lifestyle. I think it's interesting to see him come to a brand which obviously does what they do very well. So he's being put in a position where he's not starting his own label. He's got really good resources around him. So in that sense, I think it's really exciting to see quite a fresh mind being put in quite a, in quite a
position.
In quite a position.
Big position.
And it's nice for him to actually show us what he thinks his version of luxury is. And I kind of think I sort of would have hated him to come here and just do a Celine ripoff, because I've seen Celine and Phoebe is Phoebe, and she built that herself. And actually you want to see what Daniel thinks luxury is. Yeah, exactly. And I think as someone who I don't have much history with it, I want him to show me something new and what he thinks I should be wearing today from a luxury brand, which I think he's showing me some of.
Yeah.
He is.
Yeah,
sure,
definitely.
I mean, that outfit there, I mean, it's...
That coat is great.
Yes, I mean, it is making
that coat we just saw.
a nod to the past. And I think it's like, you know, as a tutor especially, we tell students to always reflect for their research, to look back and then project forward. And I think he has made a nod to this signature style of, you know, the
Intrecciato.
Intrecciato.
How is it called in English? It has a name in English. Woven leather?
Woven or entwined, perhaps.
It's kind of like lattice work, I guess.
Yes.
Lattice work, exactly.
Yes,
That's the word I was
lattice,
looking for.
yeah.
But it's called intrecciato. Yeah,
And that detail on that coat too. I mean, it's just so simple, but it's
That coat
such
is
a
my
statement.
new
Tell someone
must.
yes.
next season.
You've got to have it.
I think it's like he seems to bring this like quiet coolness as well, especially probably in the last 3 years we've had a lot of sportswear, a lot of loud logos, a lot of just bigness and kind of who can shout the loudest. It's all about your following on Instagram. It's all about the celebrities that are wearing your clothes. And actually someone who is making you look at it and not shouting that loud, kind of, I think you give more respect for, and actually I'd rather listen and see what he's doing. And you know, even as himself, he doesn't have that much he doesn't put himself out there much on Instagram, actually it's much more about the
deleted
clothes.
the whole past.
I saw they have like
So
6
we wanted
posts,
to study
right?
the Instagram, and they did what they did a Hedi, to mention someone you like, and they deleted whatever was before, which I think it's a bit weird, because, I mean, this is a brand which is 50 years old, you know, whatever. But so yeah, there's 4 posts.
That's quite a big move.
And he doesn't have an Instagram handler.
And especially for Bottega to kind of not clear what Thomas has been.
It's a new CEO as well, so it's all new.
It's quite
Newish
a
CEO.
you know, fresh.
Yeah,
Quite
yeah,
clear.
but I mean, I don't know. I always find it weird when suddenly it starts from new.
That is true.
Because I think if you research, if someone wants to research, then you can't research anymore.
But then, so who?
I research elsewhere.
I guess the kind of begs the question, kind of like, who is the new Bottega aimed at? Because obviously, you know, I was saying what I thought it was, and I mean, I certainly couldn't afford it either. But in my mind, it's that kind of Italian equivalent to sort of Hermes. It's so sort of luxury, and then this, there are certain pieces that perhaps I didn't think fitted as well as perhaps they should have. And but I'm intrigued to know if the price point's going to be the same, and who are they?
I think it's more of a styling thing, because if you take away, there are some sequin dresses or some like the leather coat, and you take away those exaggerated stomping boots, then it's just a beautifully tailored coat.
There's kind of some intriguing
But I
ways
think,
to it.
exactly.
So those are my questions.
I mean, contrary to you, I really loved it, and I think there are all the codes of Bottega in a very interesting, like for instance.
Oh, that's beautiful.
In a very interesting way. I like the fact that he put
as well.
that he put
the maroon one. It's beautiful.
Absolutely stunning.
I like the fact that he put accessories in a way that he modernized, that it's a day Bottega. I like all of that. The only thing when I saw it for the first time this morning was the fit. I felt that some outerwear, some jacket were a bit weird, a bit awkward. But then I talked to some colleagues there, and they're like telling me I was completely crazy. So I said maybe I should have seen it in movement.
I guess to an extent, when you think about Bottega, if you wanted to get the most beautifully tailored leather trench coat, you would go to Bottega.
Yeah.
And it would scream to you luxury.
Or
And you
Hermes,
wouldn't be wearing it with the whole ensemble. You'll just wear one piece probably, or even just have the bag. I mean,
But even if I think that Bottega, as we say, could be the Italian answer to Hermes, it's always been a little bit, for me, as people think I'm Italian, I'm not, but I'm Italian culture, as a Swiss Italian woman, it was a more modern elegance than Hermes. Maybe for me, the French classic is too classic. And so it had already some edge. I have, thanks to the fact that I worked there, so I had discounts, but I have some Bottega pieces, and they can have a hedge. So I don't think it's so out of tone.
no,
I don't know.
I can't convince
I
you.
guess it's just not my.
You're trying to convince
I
her.
feel like fashion is sort of moving in a. We're seeing a new sort of chapter, and I think, you know, I disclaimer, I obviously did like Hedi at Celine, and I thought that was really fresh and new, and I think this is still maybe stuck in, as I say, like a point of view that I think we're moving on from. You know, there are the overly long sleeves, which I feel is a bit done. But I mean, what's interesting is, you know, seeing that so many people, you know, you're really into it, and you're like, wow, this sort of symbolises something else, and it's something you want to see. So clearly they are trying to reposition. But yeah, I don't know.
Evolved.
That's a good word.
Hedi cut, that's what Hedi does. But Bottega is bigger than Celine. They can't really kill that billion of, you know, made, because they still made about $1 billion last year. So
Why have they done, do you think, why have they made this such a big change?
I think because you're only good as your last 2 or 3 collections, and Thomas was becoming a little bit old-fashioned, probably, because Bottega is lost its cool completely. If it's a word, you see what I'm trying to say. So Bottega, from being the bag that everybody wanted to be seen with, was not at all anymore. And so strategically, I understand. You know, I don't know. I mean, the CEO was Marco Bizzarri, who's now the most famous CEO in the world with Gucci. Same group, but you know. So they needed a new CEO, and they put someone who probably didn't work well, and then now it's Klaus Dietrich Lars, comes from Dior, and he's the one who thanked Thomas Meyer and hired Daniel Lee. So this is the little history. But I'm very, very worried, I need to say that, about the silence of Carlo Brandelli. I don't know what to expect knowing him, so you grace us of your
No, just because I've done a
words.
panel before with 3 of you, so I was watching it as you're talking. I mean, I was alive when they launched this brand.
Yeah.
So it's not, and obviously I'm Italian, so I remember what it was. And the intricato and the leather was always very important. It kind of this new phase kind of reminds me of when Katie, Grand, and Giles Deacon went in to do the collection. I don't know if people remember that. They did 2 or 3
Bottega?
seasons. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know.
They did 3 seasons or
Before
maybe 4.
Thomas?
Yeah, in probably.
Really?
I was doing Squire. Yeah. Well, I've been around a long time. Me
Me
I know
too.
these things.
I've been around as much as you, but I didn't know.
Yeah.
that.
Giles Deacon went in.
Really?
And Google it, guys. And Katie Graham was helping him, and they kind of started to reboot this old stuffy label, which is what you touched on earlier.
Yeah.
And it was that kind of period. I think it was 3 seasons or 4 seasons, maybe the guys will remember. But it didn't, I don't know if it worked or not commercially, but creatively, it was cool. So there was this coolness about it that was coming through, and I think that's what they're trying to do.
Are you sure what you're saying?
Is it coming up, guys?
Because, you know, I worked for the group many years, and I remember when we were trying to buy back the little bit that was missing.
97 or 98? Unless I've got it completely.
Yeah, they bought it in 2000, Karen, Gucci Group
just
at the
before
time.
that. Go deep into the deep.
And Bottega was going bust when it was bought by, and Thomas Meyer did an incredible job. I mean, it revived it completely. Like it or not, he re-boosted up to...
It might have been pre-internet. Maybe it's 98 or 99.
He definitely did work there, but I don't know in what capacity.
Giles.
Okay, so there you go.
There you go. And Katie helped. Well, because I think it was actually, maybe I was doing Sky, maybe it was 90...
That's so interesting, I didn't know that.
Maybe it was 98, 99. How do you know you definitely worked there? Is that in your...
I just remember when I was at uni, Giles was like the big new thing in London, and so his contextualization was he'd come from a stint at Bottega.
Yeah, so I'm not completely mad
but
as usual.
as I say, I don't know what capacity.
No, he was. It was him and Katie
He
Grant.
was probably in the creative hub because it's not really...
but you know, I mean...
That's a very interesting thing, and that reminds us stylistically of that, or it's the reboot that reminds
Well,
you
it's the same thing. I think what you're seeing here is, I mean, I can see feelings of Celine and Phoebe and Jill Sander and a little bit of Alex.
The minimalism.
Yeah, there's a lot of references here, and as Sue was saying, he's young and it's the first time he's in charge and he's finding his feet. And it does represent this blanket generic narrative which design houses seem to want at the moment if they're not just going to go and be kooky. Because, you know, I agree with you as well. I think it's something that maybe we're moving on a little bit from, but also it is representing the speed at which our lives and how we read semiotic information is happening. This is how you see Instagram. There are biker references here. Are those very thin things in leather? The very long coats on the guy, or are they plastic?
On the guy, I don't think it's leather. The one on the men, by the way, we haven't spoken, but I think the men's part of the collection is really good.
Yes.
I love the men's part.
Yes.
I think the guy is, no, I think it's wool, but I haven't touched it.
Okay.
See, it doesn't look like leather to me.
No.
Yeah.
I think that's
Have you found that, guys? Back in the difficult, yeah?
No, but in also needs to listen to us to give us references.
Genius.
So, we will find. I mean, I have one person here,
Call Katie.
the blonde.
Shall I text her?
She's very
We
good.
do that live on air.
Don't worry, we'll find it before the end.
So it reminds me of that kind of feeling. And then I wanted to talk about their campaign in 2000, because I didn't see the show, 2015, which they got Jürgen Teller to shoot at this architect's house in Turin called Carlo Molino. And Carlo Molino is, is a superstar, and anyone that goes to the apartment and the museum knows that the energy in there is very, very special. But they used the space as just the backdrop for a fashion shoot, and the models were kind of, not really doing what they should be doing in that space. It was just this fashion shoot in this old, kind of interesting apartment that belonged to this photographer, artist, creative. Yeah, that's kind of contrary to what was happening in Molino.
Remember that Thomas has done a campaign with an artist, photographer, and then some fashion photographer, but different every 6 months to give them the possibility to interpret Bottega. I think our own Ignite did one, by the way.
Yeah. Didn't they do a book as well? I went to a book event.
Yes, exactly. Just to celebrate the 50th or 75th anniversary.
Yeah.
Because every campaign, that's one thing that Thomas did, every campaign was very different. Because it was the interpretation of the brand by the photographer,
Which you do not see now as much.
Well, now it's just a fashion campaign,
But I mean, the way that brands approach their advertising campaigns now.
No, that was just a Thomas Meyer thing.
But it's nice that he does that.
Yeah.
It feels like a nice thing
Well, I'm
to
interested
do.
to hear what you thought about that. Yeah.
Well, because you kind of, I suppose, for a photographer, for anyone, when the campaigns come out every season, it's exciting and you want to see, you've just seen the shows and they've been such a spectacle themselves, the actual show itself, and you feel like they've poured like thousands of pounds into it and everybody's been talking about it and there's people there and celebrities there and the production is amazing. And then sometimes the campaigns come out and it's a little bit safe.
Yeah.
And it looks exactly the same as the year before, and you'd like to see people risk more on that side of things. But
It's also
obviously-
interesting that they give the keys of creativity for one element to someone else.
Exactly.
Yes.
But
The Le Bon, is it Le Bon?
It's Taylor Le Bon now.
I mean, that sort of the new dawn of Bottega Veneta.
Yeah, but Tyron Le Bon did the last campaign of Phoebe Philo at Celine, if I'm not mistaken. So he did one campaign. And so I guess that Daniel knew him. And I think when you have all of this, I don't know, I'm trying to justify, but probably he needed someone he knew. I don't know.
yeah.
But that campaign and the fact that it was Taron, and people say he's going to do a Phoebe, you know, which I don't think he did. But of course, he grew up in that school, and so
Yeah, it's naturally
he's
gonna-
got some of that,
Yes,
you know.
definitely.
DNA to it.
But this, I think,
DNA,
was a
I
really a nice, fresh kind of outtake on femininity as well. I think in the campaign, I kind of think
women in shoes.
the naked women. So I think the first two with the girl on the snakeskin chair, but it's kind of this lifestyle he's selling more with the brand of
Yeah.
this girl, and she's just thrown on.
Also, I think he's pushing the accelerator on the cool factor that Bottega
Yeah, of
needed
course.
badly.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think, am I mistaken? I think that campaign, for me, shouts cool more than Phoebe Philo.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would agree
And it's empowerment too, and I think that it's, it's making it actually more accessible as well. So the
Until we
campaign-
see the price tag.
Until you see the price tag. But I mean, those nude ones there, I mean, they're so powerful and they are so sort of perfectly done. I mean, that one, she's the one walking up the rock there is, really kind of, there's so many ways you could have done that would have made it more sensual, but in a way it's sort of kind of awkward too, which is what's so nice about that the sort of contrasting of the colours as well. I think it's just, a really iconic picture, that, and without sort of...
It's funny how I see it completely differently. I mean, I don't dislike this campaign, but that photo, the first time I saw it, it evoked something terrible to me, like she was raped and she escaped, or she was kept. I don't know why, the nudity and the climbing up a rock with the heels.
It's a
as if-
Gustavo Doré, but that. It's a little bit Helmut Newton, if you think about it, but it's also
yes, but
Gustavo.
not really.
A natural Helmut Newton.
Yes.
There's an illustrator called Gustavo
outtake.
Doré,
Yeah.
who portrayed women being I don't know, adorned or liked by mythical creatures. And there's an illustration by him where there's a woman on rocks and she's got her hands in chains and there's a dragon coming out of the water and she's naked. So I think if you just Google
Is she
Gustavo Doré,
escaping or she...
well, this is open to, it's open to
Interpretation.
interpretation.
Yes.
If you just
What did it
Google
evoke to
Gustavo
Britt?
Doré,
What did you see it positive or negative?
What's in that? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, I agree with you in the sense of the others that were a bit more modern than, say, like a Phoebe thing, but I agree with you, there's a sort of, quite haunting narrative that comes with that image. And but overall, the first two, whilst I agree that they are more modern,
Keep going
again,
down.
it just sort of sits within that territory of, I think, fashion imagery that we're very used to seeing. Again, just to clarify, not the naked climbing up the mountain, the other two, where they're just
Yes.
on the chair.
that's
so for me, I wasn't wowed by them because
Yeah.
it's just like... more of a-
Yes,
It's funny. I see a clear strategy behind. It's probably a little bit too clear to me. So I agree with the strategy. I think the execution is pretty correct. I just think it's a little bit too obvious. Am I making sense?
yes. You mean the photo shoot's too obvious?
No, the strategy, the cool factor that was the brief to the guy. Bring it back to being cool.
It'd be interesting to see where it goes next because, granted, there are some pieces in this that I do like and details that I think are interesting, and I think those could be filtered and channeled into something that could be really a lot more, to me, luxe. But I do think it needs sort of more finesse. But yeah, I would be interested to see where it goes because definitely this is that kind of like cool and make an impression, and I guess Ma might love it, hate it, and yeah.
Was that grey jacket you were talking about?
Yeah,
one
but the
which is
more
very
I look at it, the more I absolutely love this collection.
Yes,
So.
I must admit,
But that grey jacket and another one that now I can't find, I don't remember. The first feeling you have when you see a collection sometimes there's some awkwardness, but then often it's the one that you end up liking the most.
Liking both, yes, because it's such a statement. I mean, that grey one there in the middle. Yeah.
But see, I can see by comparison, obviously, you know, I mean, I was a fan of Maya and I'm thinking very fondly of him, but I do agree that in the last few collections, you could see that there was perhaps not the punch that in a landscape that suddenly needed a sort of injection or kick up the arse of like, I can see why they did that.
Yes.
But it's still not my favourite collection of the season.
You know,
like
it's funny because Thomas Meyer did, when he started doing ready-to-wear, which is not at the very beginning, it's not immediately in the year 2000, but when he started to do ready-to-wear, I was like, ooh, really? And especially at the beginning, he did exquisite collection. I mean, those gowns, those dresses, it was so chic, it was painful. And then I believe that towards the end, he was a little bit lost in what he needed to do. When he started doing sportswear, I'm like, that's not you, Thomas, don't do that, you know? And that's one of the things, trying, a little bit confused, trying to be...
you get pulled into many directions and it becomes...
This, like it or not, has a point of view.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
Good.
Do you think that...
Okay, that I respect.
do you, like, I don't know it's too obvious because it's luxe, leather goods, but the kind of Jonathan Anderson going in at Loewe, completely re-bringing that up, having a fresh approach on it. It kind of just, the whole concept and kind of game plan sort of reminds me of that. And now looking at that and thinking about what Jonathan did when he went into Loewe, but with that, the visuals were a lot stronger than these new visuals. Like, let's be honest, that was, he completely twisted a leather goods brand and turned it into something I found really interesting, and I never think I would have liked.
Agreed.
And actually now I think every season you're really excited to see Loewe.
Absolutely.
You're excited to see the campaigns, you're excited to see how he can develop this quite quiet kind of luxury brand, and he's really elevated it, but managed to...
He did a great job.
Sorry to talk about him, but I see comparison in that, and maybe, as you're saying, Daniel needs to be less obvious and less Celine with it, and actually just let his own...
More Daniel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty accomplished. You can't, for a 30, how old is he, 31?
32.
32
This is very accomplished
yeah.
for a 32-year-old creative director because he's had to go in on the back of someone
I don't think
that had
he's
a long
that
tenure.
young, exactly. He worked for Balenciaga, he worked for Louis Vuitton, I think, Donna Karan. In a few years, it's not, I mean, 33 is not that young, is
But I
it?
guess it just depends in the realms of when you graduate, when you get jobs, and that sort of...
I think that previous men's look with that you were saying with the leather trousers and the cutout, that one,
The
I think
men's
that's
look
so
is
strong.
spectacular. I mean, that is such
That
an
is
amazing
beautiful.
look. Absolutely.
Yeah, I honestly, I think the comparison with Loewe is brilliant, and I think it's exactly the same strategy behind. And again, I'm not justifying, or I'm trying to be factual here. Loewe was practically nothing anymore for years when Jonathan took over. So in a way, I guess it was freer. Here, again, the brand was losing, but it's still a big brand with a lot of sales, especially in Asia, with that Intrecciato bag, which is still one of the most expensive and most wanted. But you know what I mean? So the guy has huge pressure on his shoulder. I thought it was very brave to accept the job, actually.
There aren't
They do look like warriors too, don't they?
That's a good point.
There's very few bags and accessories.
There are so many in stores.
Well, the thing is, with Intrecciato, obviously, having been a designer, and when I see people go into these brands, you want them to hit the kind of correct pure note. So if that's what the company and the brand was famous for, I would like to see lots of different reworkings of that subject matter, which I didn't see. I saw one dress and a coat.
Don't you think it would probably be in store, but he didn't want to fill the catwalk with that?
Well,
there are a few little bags that are very smart.
Yeah, there's plenty of opportunities, a lot of looks here. I don't know how many looks he's put through, but there is an opportunity to really look at different weaves and just move that forward, because they haven't really moved that forward for a long time at all. And when you think about the technical side of being a designer or a creative director, when you have craftspeople at your disposal, as Berluti did when I did that panel, and then he brought the colour into the leather, when you have these craftspeople that can do anything for you, there is a large opportunity for you to really advance what you do with that technique. So I would have liked to have seen a lot more there, especially through
Can we
the
go into the
accessories.
details of the collection in I don't know if we have them here.
I mean, there was touches on
you go
that
on.
with that
Can I
one
mention a
black
competitor?
Yeah,
You go
I
on
want to see a lot of it.
runway, and in
Because I'd love the
detail you can
opportunity,
see the bag.
interested in craft, to go in and really kind of dissect and work and try to understand what they can do with that. Because that intricato is made from, if I remember correctly, because I ripped one off a long time ago, 8 to 10 mil, 2 threads, warp and weft, but running by hand. But I don't know if at the end they were doing it by machine, Mimma, when you work there.
So
Or the machine making.
I've been to the workshop many times.
Was
So
it still hand?
the kaba, which is the expensive bag, is made by 2 women at the same time, and it's really, it doesn't have a base, so it's really, I mean, one that knows how to cut this thing, and 2 that are really, it's like
She weaves.
they intrecciano, they wove.
Yeah,
At the same time, so it's like a bucket that is born from its base, but there's nothing. While all the intrecciato that you see in the other bags, there is a base, and then it's done like this
Yeah.
inside, like with a needle. So it's much easier. But machine,
Because that
doesn't
material and that
exist.
texture.
It's all made by hand.
Yeah, those bags, which a lot of my family have had and I've had, they look very sculptural. And if you were just to take.
That little one was amazing.
Yeah, they have.
That looks so great.
padded one.
It's just so,
Vogue runway details. You have all the bags.
that's so like just, she's holding it, it's very casual, it's, the bags are there where they need to be there, it's not too, and also I think, simple thing, like, you know, catwalks, normally the woman has a bag on her shoulder and it's very,
Yeah.
I don't walk like that
But
with a
there
bag.
are more bags than you think, because I've watched them all, and he has reworked the intrecciato again in a very big way. But then you see that it's still the intrecciato because there are some spaces in between, so it's not fake. And then he had made it a puffer, you know, like a puffer jacket, which that's a little bit weird, but it's quite interesting. I mean, I think it's a little bit, our eye has to become accustomed to that.
I was going to say, it did certainly pick up on what seems to be quite a big trend, or what people are exploring a lot
see that.
now is the quilting and puffer, but more quilt. Like we've seen
It's
quilting in
quilting,
menswear, and
yeah.
we've seen it in womenswear. Like people are just
It's a
going
trend.
crazy about it.
Quilting is a trend, you're right.
And here it was definitely, you know, like supersized and shiny, and obviously it backs up that sort of square.
And it's like the fabrics here too. I mean, that echoing of the intricato is like in the fabric, the way that the fabric's been put together. It's, and that's part of his heritage too.
I don't dislike that there are some trends mixed with tradition.
I think that's just an observation.
I think also though,
I'm obsessed with those boots.
they're amazing.
I know, me too, I love them.
With you were saying though, with the kind of, that you think he can push things, how long has he been there now?
Well, this is his first
This is his
show,
first
but
show.
he's done. He's been there since June, and he's presented his
that's like-
Yeah.
2 months ago, a month and 2 months
Yeah, I
ago.
think it
But that's what, 7 months?
His first.
Yes.
Oh yeah, this is his first main collection.
Yes, and my point is more that he's only been there for 7 months. With anything that anybody does, you have to give them time to get
Yeah.
into it.
But
You
maybe,
have to
Carlo,
go
you haven't
learn
seen the
more.
gigantic bag that he presented in the resort collection. There were 2 very big.
I mean, that's the development in that skirt and the coat just before that, guys, that you flashed up. Can you just flash back?
one bag.
The technical development to get to that stage, there would have been 7 or 8 or 9 other really interesting ideas which they could have presented. That the designer obviously had restrictions, you know, from merchandising or the money side to say, no, it has to be 10 categories in here, 6 categories in there. We want one for a show, we want this piece for commercial.
I don't
But
think so. That doesn't work like that.
It's been liberal there. Okay, the development of this dip, this technique, there would have been several stages in between, which they could have just pushed forward as well. Because I can see that even making that jump from what it was to here, I mean, for me that is very beautiful, and these are the most beautiful pieces in the collection. But seeing bags with that sculptural quality, I mean, I think most designers want their bags to
But
appear
there
as
are bags
items of
and
art.
shoes in there that are that. I promise you, you don't see them here, but there are. So we can find them.
With this
and
technique,
probably, I don't know where it's.
With this technique or
Yes,
others?
with that new intrecciato.
Yeah.
There was one that I could see on the shoulder, but don't worry, Joe. Don't go mad. I don't remember where I saw
I
that.
love the hood coming out of them jackets, that really amazing purple one, and then just the hood coming out the back.
I'm kind of surprised that some of the girls like the clunky boots.
This I don't like. For instance.
I know. I have to say that it's just not for me at
But
all.
is it fine luxury? Is it kind of a leather.
Yeah.
It's just a different shape.
I mean, why not? I mean, why does
the
it
leather
have to
boot
be a
I
pump?
want compared to the leather boot that.
It's just a style.
Well, maybe I'm thinking of a bigger picture. There is for want of a better word, this dystopian feeling towards some fashion moving forward. And I think something which is very obvious and big and large and hard, for me, doesn't have a place in a brand like Bottega. I mean, that shoe is very beautiful and it was finer. But these things that are very hard in a sensitive time in social history that we are today, I don't know. Maybe you're just edging your bets and just saying, let's have this.
You think it's too trend-based?
I disagree, Carlo, because I think that even a brand as classic as Bottega has to move on. And those boots, for me, are making those skirts and coats much more modern. Then you can also not wear them, but I like it like that. I mean, I think I would, but that's me. But I do not think that it has to be sleek to be luxurious. Or think about when Karl Lagerfeld,
Well, he did a bit like that.
mention him, put trainers on a couture show. He was the one who did it. I mean, Phoebe put them on a lot on the catwalk with suit, but he put them in couture. Everybody was like, ooh, weird, but then it was Karl, and so then it became a trend. So I don't see why Bottega Veneta cannot have chunky boots.
Well, I just didn't think as a design idea it was new, and it's a very big statement in that
No,
show.
I feel like it was quite for me, that doesn't make it modern, it makes it kind of dated. So,
Yeah.
but I think that's a personal...
Really?
Yeah, I think that's just a personal thing. So,
If it was a new idea, because we're looking at this with very critical eyes, and it's a debut collection for a designer. I know he hasn't had much time, but you want impact. You want impact. And you spoke about Karl Lagerfeld. Maybe we should just give him a quick round of applause because he's got, such a hero for everybody. But you've seen this boot before in many, many incarnations with many designers. So putting it in with this, I understand the aesthetic and why. Okay, to set this contemporary mindset within the clientele, I totally get that. I just thought with that heritage and the leather, you maybe just go somewhere slightly different.
again, I'm interested to see what they're like, who is the audience, who is the kind of,
Rich women.
Yeah, but in which case are they...
But there are three types of shoes in that show. There's the pump, the quilted one, and the sleek one. There's the boot.
These do dominate quite a bit, and I suppose maybe that
It's
is...
the cool factor.
Well, I'm sold, but I mean...
No, I'm just
Show them to the camera, Sue.
I'm stating the banal, yeah, I can see.
They're nice, they look great. No, they do.
And she could be wearing Bottega with those.
Indeed.
But what season?
Well, okay, you got us there. I haven't got quite that detail on them, though. But
Because there was an asymmetric shoe with a front on a toe that I saw quickly in the
quilted
show. Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Yeah, which presented a new toe silhouette, which I thought was
Yeah.
really interesting because, as a designer, I look for very tiny nuances in collections which I can see will set whole new trends in the future. So little things like just changing that asymmetric toe or moving it. I think it had a little heel, had a little kitten heel on it when I saw it.
Look at the bags. Look at the bags.
oh, the bags, yes.
Ah, yeah.
There are many bags because I also think that one thing that Bottega had really, really need of rework were the shoes at the time of Thomas. I don't think he ever did a good pair of shoes.
I mean, I didn't shop there for shoes.
But with them black chunky boots, I can think they're, chunky boots have been a trend now for so many years. But they are beautiful black chunky boots. And the design on them, the really high elasticated bit that goes all the way up above your ankle, it's quite slim over the ankle. And then it's done to perfection. If I was to buy a pair of boots, I would buy them ones. And the detail in those are 10 times better than the Balenciaga ones or that are just too flashy. Even that color brown is amazing for a man. So I think he can take that trend, but he's in a position where he can do it so well. And they are chunky boots, but they're not that chunky. They're actually quite toned down
It's
for what.
1984 again for me, and even further back. I understand, Britt. We're getting too bogged down in the boots.
I was wearing those.
It's a very chic
I was
leather
wearing
boot.
those in the late
It's the
80s,
warrior
for
coming
sure, but
out,
not that
I think.
beautiful.
It's a very chic leather boot.
Yes.
But I think what's interesting in the discussion of the absence or presence of the bags is that obviously what it's known as for its accessories, but we've managed to shift our focus more onto the clothes by sort of almost omitting to see the bags there.
Yeah.
Which is
So
clever.
it's
So
quite
well done them
positive.
for, you know, I guess having done that.
Yeah, that's well said. It's very positive.
It's difficult to find one or two descriptive words or even a sentence if you were to encapsulate this show.
She'll need to do for post.
What did you say? Yeah, you have to do it in
Because you could do that about the rest of the shows in Milan or London.
I've got plenty.
Wait to hear yours.
See, there's also
Positive
sleek
criticism.
sandals there. There's sequins, there's, I don't know, I think, I was expecting enthusiasm, and
What are you
I
expecting?
found
What, from this or from us?
from this show, from this collection, I really think it's very right for Bottega. I can
look at
see
that handbag,
even
just
the
so
Bottega lady who has worn the bags but not really the ready-to-wear now, approaching it for ready-to-wear as well. There's no evening, did you notice? There's day, it's day wear, and that's also quite cool.
Which
There's no
I love
evening,
that
there's
it's
no
just day
cocktail,
wear.
boring cocktail. It's day wear, and this coat, if I see it one more, I just go mad.
Bag it up already for her.
But that very obvious piece of hardware there has become a feature in other designer collections. You know, other people have led that way forward. And I wouldn't have normally associated that kind of feature with Bottega, for example.
Does it matter, really?
I think when you're a house and you have to have a clear signature, you know, I'm going to say who it is, you know, it's Alex, and then Alex working with Dior, you know, putting that hardware back in, you know, Matthew doing that, bringing your attention back to using metal in this functional way, which almost supersedes the idea of the clothes, I thought was quite an important thing to happen. But when I see it here with Bottega, I want to focus on leather, primarily, which I am getting. But those are it's an overwhelming statement. I'm not saying it's a bad one or a negative one, I'm just saying as a fact, it is very, very strong idea. And I never would have associated metal or hardware with Bottega in the past. I would have thought sculptural, soft, and leather.
Yeah, metal
Femininity.
is
It's not
not.
too much metal and hardware though.
Go back over a perspective of 50 seasons,
But
and this is only the last five seasons, this kind of thing.
They would never have.
That hard-edged, you know, it's
Thank
very
God.
difficult.
I mean,
Well, yeah.
if it doesn't move
If you
on, I
like
don't
it.
need fashion. I have a wardrobe full of stuff.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask you actually, is
Shouting to
sportswear
the
in this
world.
collection?
I need
How is
brands to move
sportswear
it.
represented?
Look at what Phoebe did with Celine. There were no codes. She just did it and it worked. You know, look at what Hedy is doing with Celine now and did with Saint Laurent. There was like, well, Saint Laurent used some codes, but I mean, it's like, why not? I mean,
Does
why
Bottega have to be in that
hire someone
bracket?
who's 33 if you want them to be stuck in the past?
It's not about that, I don't think, Mimma. I think, do you want Bottega to be in that bracket with those superstar brands turning over that
Yeah,
superstar
but look
amount
at
of
this.
money?
I mean, it's full of luscious, yummy leather and incredible. You said it, like the way that coat is made. I think there is luxury. Then, well, yeah, I like the only non-leather coat in it. That's me.
Yeah. Is this the jacket that you thought the fit was slightly off?
Yeah, it was slightly.
Is
for
that
me,
deliberate?
It was off-putting, I guess. So I don't think it's a mistake.
And like, is irony, like, obviously some Balenciaga employs it all
Yeah.
the time, and that's fine,
Yeah.
but that works
Not my cup
under
of tea.
Demna. But does that work for Bottega? I think that's a question which we'll see eventually
That's not my favourite
answered.
look.
But I don't know now, and I think that's the thing. For me, there are a lot of question marks as to where, I mean, it may be a huge success and great, but then I'd be really interested to sort of see that play out and, yeah.
Moving forward, yeah. I mean, the
I have a feeling it will
non-size
be
and overfit is
successful.
tricky.
But there only are a few of that, so it's not
Let's
like
talk.
it was reoccurring a lot.
No, but you put one in and you make a statement,
Well,
don't
yes,
you?
well, everyone's...
And then you judge it.
Yes, you know, of
Like I
course. I
said.
mean, you're wondering, was that just what we said? Was that is that a mistake or was that meant to be?
I don't think it was a mistake. I
No, it
think
can't be.
it's meant to be like that. And personally, I think it looks awkward, but it doesn't matter. You know, it's probably a subjective.
Well, you know why that happens on the cup? It's because it's when you attach the shoulder and the lapel to the neck point. So if you're a technical person, you understand that's an absolute, you just don't do that. So if you're going to make it as a feature, it has to be exaggerated, it has to be very, very clear.
So it wasn't exaggerated enough? That's what you're saying?
Well, you said the fit was off at the beginning. They weren't my words.
No. I said for me it looked awkward, but I'm asking to understand. You said it should have been more exaggerated.
I think if people are looking at that
And questioning
and
it.
question it, then
Yes,
it's...
then it's
Yeah, maybe
Well,
it's-
I'm not people,
don't
it's
think-
me.
But I think seeing this makes me want to, this is obviously his catwalk collection, so as you said, there's nods to a few different trends. It makes me more want to go into a Bottega store. Yes. And actually I understand that this is all kind of, it's his opening, this is kind of what I can do. It makes me want to go in and think, okay, so some of the knits were really great. I'm sure if I went in store, I'd see 20 more amazing knits. So maybe it's more of a kind of introduction to what he can offer.
I think this look, is that on screen for everybody, guys, or just us? Is everyone? I think this is very interesting because, you know, people that are using words liberally now in terms of design like dreaming and love and energy, when you focus on, whether you believe this or not, an important part of the body that supposedly emits energy or is associated to your chakra, to focus that on the chest, you know, it's this understanding and feeling of openness as a designer, and then embellishing it with another material. I think this is quite an important, subtle
Okay,
step.
I didn't know if you were ending negative or positive. Yeah, I didn't. I think it's, I was waiting for the landing. It's exquisite.
Yes.
Well, it's an interesting comment. You know, we spoke about Matty Bovon, which I thought was a great show in London. I saw last week in London. I thought, you know, I don't know if you guys saw the show, but when Matty came out to do his bow for everybody, he ran really, really quickly, as fast as he could. And I thought that was a really beautiful comment on how fashion and people see culture and society now, and how you saw his show, because he threw so much stuff in. It's just how people view style. You view it through your Instagram feed or an internet feed, and you're seeing something luxurious, something modern, something old, something new, something Renaissance, cornflakes. It's all just thrown together. But then one tiny little thing like taking his bow, he ran really, really quickly, and then he was off like a blur. I thought that was an interesting cultural, socio-political comment, as I think that garment is too. So it's positive.
Well, no, I hear you. I don't know if he went that far in the thinking about that, or it's just an aesthetic thing. But I cannot see that ever again like I did before. Now I think about.
Well, I think he's feeling it, and it doesn't matter if he thinks about it. I think designers should be creative people.
I think it's very beautiful.
Yeah, they need to feel vibration and what's happening forwards. And so if he feels it, and he's opening that part of your chest up, because it's vulnerable, right?
Oh, yeah, and I prefer it with naked skin underneath than with a top.
Well, it's like that the dress which had the beautiful sort of almost
square. There's a lot of square, shape, which I think is very interesting, and which I think it's actually rather Bottega. I don't know why, but I see.
Because there he's opening the chest again, but it's sheer and it's covered. And as with the other design, everything else is covered. He's just really focused on there. It's where you feel. So whether designer's really thinking about it in a philosophical way as part of his narrative, he's doing it.
Yes, that is such an expand. It's almost Renaissance.
Yeah.
You know, and then there's no cleavage. So
yeah, I love a little bit of skin, but never vulgar, never too much.
No, exactly.
There's a maroon version as well with a more swooping neckline. I think it's very beautiful.
We're liking it more and more.
I know. I came in with like 5 looks that I liked.
I know.
That was on the list.
But your first statement was quite, you know, we're quite like, but now I think you're smoothing the edges, and it's getting into your living.
It's still a pass for me. As I say, my question mark is where it goes, and
That's interesting.
And I've got a lot of questions, basically. I like that one.
So for that and for more, we will have to wait 6 months.
As per.
And on this, I think I can thank you for your interesting comment. Please do subscribe to SHOWstudio YouTube channel. And please do leave your comments. We love to hear what you think about what we said and what you think about the collection we've seen. Come back for much more during next week, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.